All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll start admitting people as I see them come in. And just a quick reminder for those of you that have just logged on, thank you for joining. This is our Cash in Your Lawn webinar. It's being led by Maureen Clark, who's a master gardener here. And there we go, a few more people coming in. My name is Elise. I work for Solano County Water Agency. Awesome. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and introduce our programs. And again, for those of you that are just joining, welcome. Please note that these will all be recorded and available on our website. So I'll go ahead and get started. So those of you that don't know, Solano County Water Agency, we are wholesale water providers. So our agency assists with floodwater management, water conservation programs, invasive species prevention, and habitat restoration. You can see Lake Berryessa in that photo. So we do a lot of things in our organization: public outreach, water conservation, and some educational programming in partnership with Solano Resource Conservation District. And then while I admit a few more people, just to get kind of the ball rolling and really lighthearted, since we are going to be kind of covering some water efficiency, climate adaptable plants and irrigation, just a quick little question. What is your favorite plant or animal that is great at saving water? If you want to drop that in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand or unmute and share, you can do that as well.
Girl, I'm sorry. He's always trying to make people do extra stuff. When he started asking, I was like, oh my God, just leave that girl alone. Like, it's slow. Like, just let her be.
All right.
So I'm not running people's food.
Again, if you want to participate, what is your favorite plant or animal that is a great water saver? I got the desert tortoise there, but my favorite is a kit fox. Cacti are cool, I agree. It doesn't have to be kelp, but hill penstemons, those are beautiful. Here. So we're going to learn a few more today too. We're going to give you guys lots of examples of what you can use in your own backyard. All right. All right, we'll have to look that one up. Anthony Parker, don't know that. If anyone else wants to drop it in the chat. And just a reminder, we are going to have some time for questions before and after, but if you can mute yourself in between, I know a lot of you are on your lunch break, so thank you so much for participating. But just in case you forget, just as a friendly little reminder here. So jump on out. All right, so another little quick question, and a lot of you joining probably already know the answer, but in your opinion, do you think indoor or outdoor water use takes the majority of household water use? If you want to drop that in the chat or raise your hand and I can call on you. Thanks, Ryan. Yes, outdoor. Oops. Yes, thank you. Outdoor. Yep. So majority of water, especially in the arid West, is used in outdoors, and some are 50 to 60% or more, depending where you live in the state. So I know a lot of you are joining us from the Bay Area, Solano, Yolo County, but some of you might be from a little further down south or inland. And then another quick question, because we're going to cover irrigation. How much water do you think is lost to leaks in an irrigation system? This one is kind of particular, but a lot, a little, in between. Don't know. 30%? Could be. I should have broke it down by percentage. But got this big old number here. So about 6,300 gallons per month could be in a leak as small as the size of a dime. And a lot of time leaks could be a whole lot bigger than that. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. All right. So we're going to cover a little bit about improper irrigation, and Maureen Clark is here with us today. And so she's going to be discussing climate appropriate plants and irrigation. So I'm going to go ahead and share my, or whenever you're ready, Maureen, I'm going to pause and share my screen with you. Let me know if that works. Stop share. There you go, Maureen, if you wanted to share yours. Sorry about that.
Got it.
And I think it's trying to come up. There you go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Maureen Clark. I'm a Solano County Master Gardener. I'm also a plant lover and just really enjoy teaching people about different things about irrigation, plants, you know, all sorts of different things, sheet mulching, things like that. So I welcome you to our series that we're having here, and I'm glad everybody's here today. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you guys advice on how to convert your lawn irrigation to a drip irrigation. I'll actually be showing you some pieces and stuff. It's going to be a few pieces that you'll have. But I'll also have, hopefully we can do another series just on irrigation, and then we can sort of go from there. And then on the tail end of my presentation, I'll also be showing you some climate appropriate plants that are low water. So here we go. So what I want to talk about first is making sure that we're planting in the right place. We as a California are a Mediterranean climate, and there are many other places that are Mediterranean climates, in case you don't know this already. So when you're out buying plants, if you go to a good nursery, you can always ask them, it's like, where's this plant actually come from? So they can actually tell you. They can say, oh, it's actually coming from southwest coast of Australia, or it's coming from central coast of Chile, you know, so that'll give you a good idea of like, oh yeah, that's Mediterranean as well. So it should be low water, drought tolerant sort of plant usually. The other things we do want to look out is when we go out into our gardens, we want to take a look around and see what sort of microclimates that we probably have out there. Everybody's house is different. So like at my house, I had a neighbor that had a really big tree over in a corner. That tree got cut down, and then I immediately had a lot more wind coming through there. So keep an eye out for microclimates that are also against walls, where you have, you know, that southwestern sun coming in. That can also be a microclimate there. So with this presentation, we're trying to talk about using less water. So let's try and find using bigger plants or plants that just use less water on it. And then we'll talk about grouping them as well. And then we'll talk about whether, you know, if you've got stuff that's further away that doesn't get a whole lot of irrigation, you most certainly could take that and then just do that section to be only like California natives or something. Okay. So the characteristics of your different drought tolerant plants that you have California natives, you have low water plants, you have succulents. Cacti are actually considered succulents. This is the purpose of these sort of plants, is they come out, they either have waxy or shiny sort of leaves on them, like star jasmine. They can have gray or blue leaves. There's lots of gray and blue colored plants out there, like Dusty Miller. There's lots of salvias out there. There's just, there's yarrow that's out there. And then there's other ones that actually have small hairs on them, like the lamb's ear. And that actually will pick up that moisture at night or in the morning, evening, get that dew, hold on to that moisture with the hairs on the plant, and then sort of bring it into their system. And then other ones will have no leaves at all, like certain cacti and succulents. And that's the whole purpose of them, trying to help and bring in that moisture and keep it So they keep it throughout the day when it's super, super hot. Some of our plants, especially a lot of California natives, will actually go dormant during the summer. So if you are out and about and you see the California buckeyes out there, they're the giant trees out there with the upright candelabra sort of flowers coming off of the plant, off the tree everywhere. Those are usually, they'll go totally dormant during our really, really rough, hot summers. And that's the purpose of them. They shut down. They do the opposite of what a perennial plant would do. And then they shut down and then they revigorate once they get those winter rains. Okay. Another ways that plants actually survive well, because there's not a whole lot of water during the summer, during the hot time, or just in general, is they actually will create a synthesized abscisic acid. And what that does is it goes out, that acid actually is in the plant, and it'll actually go out and check and see how much water is actually in my root system, how much water is in my system. And then it'll like figure out what it needs to do from there. So that's I think that's really phenomenal that plants can actually do that. The other thing that they do is they wait for their seeds. There's a lot of California native plants out there that are actually annuals. So their whole purpose in life is like bloom, then throw my seeds out, let my seeds go in there, wait for them to lie dormant until we get the optimal amount of rain or fire or whatever it is that promotes those seeds to grow. And then they'll open up and do their thing and they'll start growing as a plant. Also, plants are very smart in the fact that they can have their pores, their stomatas, and the pores that are on the plant itself. They open and close depending upon the time of day, and then they absorb water, and then they also transpire water when it's super, super hot, and then they'll come in and they'll close it when it's hot, warm out or hot out, and then they'll hold in that moisture. And then, like I said before, they'll slow their growth or they'll shut down their growth 100%. Sorry, I'm going through this pretty fast because we've got a lot to go. So there's 3 different types of watering requirements with a lot of your drought tolerant plants. And if you go to a good nursery, they'll actually be able to tell you what sort of group they're in, whether they're a low water sort of plant or they're if they're going to want low water, or they're going to want occasional water, or they're going to want none to little. Okay. And the none to littles, here's some examples. Blended little to none is like your cistus, your rock rose. Once those get established, they don't want a whole lot of water, and that's the #1 killer on those. Your Corea, the Australian fuchsia is also a really good one. Here's the occasional ones that you have. You have like the that people like to use as a grass replacement because it's nice and short. You don't have to mow or anything. There's also different barberries that you can use that are great as far as occasional. Your low water plants in here, your California wild rose, your festucas, their Muhlenbergias. These all need to be grouped in the same section. So if you're watering things in one bed, you want to make sure that all your low water plants are in one bed. Or if you have hardly any water anywhere, you could just do the ones that are little to none and put that in the far section of your property. Okay. So as far as installing plants, this is a really good way of like saying how to install it. But I would like to say compost is usually your best thing to start doing it with. Okay. And this is an great example on how to actually install it here. So when you're doing your hole, I always dig my hole first. I come in and I make sure that I fill the hole with water to see how much drainage it's doing. And you want that drainage to happen pretty quickly. You want it to be dissipating out of there within an hour. Otherwise, you want to come in, you want to make sure that you're changing up that soil a little bit, but never use sand, because if you use sand, then you're basically going to create clay bricks. Okay, so you could most certainly use do the original soil of 2/3. You want to use 1/3 of the compost, and you could actually use some lava rocks in there to try and add additional drainage to to the hole. And what I do is I usually take all my soil out. I throw it in a wheelbarrow or something. I throw my compost in. If necessary, I throw those lava rocks in there and I mix it all together, get it hydrated with some water, make sure it's good and hydrated. And then I come in with my plant and I plant my plant in, and then I put it in with a nice moist soil. One of the things you do want to make sure is that you're bringing that plant in and you're bringing it and you're doing it above the grade by at least an inch. Okay, because the soil will sink in. So you want to make sure your plant's okay with that. And then I come back and I take some sort of wood chips and then I bring it around the plant itself. And I don't bury the actual stem of the plant or the trunk of the tree. I keep that away from it by at least 2 to 3 inches. If we're doing trees, you do want to make sure your stakes are in the same direction of the summer prevailing winds. Okay, that's what California is known for, is getting summer prevailing winds. And with the droughts that we're having, we're getting a lot more winds, which is unusual. And so make sure that that is really important, that you're actually putting in those stakes and they're putting in correctly. Usually I use 2 or 3 stakes for it. Okay. So, and another good thing for doing your stakeholders, you can use straps that are made out of old, like garden hoses. You can use pantyhose. There's lots of different things you want to use. That's going to be something that's like going to be soft on the trunk of the tree, but not going to be abrasive on it. Okay, so now we're going to go into the retrofit of the irrigation itself. What I do want to talk about is when you're going in with your whole lawn, you want to come in, you want to take any sort of assess it and decide where you're going to convert it. You can come in and you can convert it and just change it out to a regular, take your regular sprinkler head and then, oh, I don't have a sprinkler head here. And then you can actually change it and turn it into a drip irrigation. Usually what I do is I take the ones that are up on the hillside, or if it's on a slope, you want to take the one that's up on the upper part, and then I cap everybody else. So you want to make sure you have plenty of caps out there so you can cap all those, the nipples that are up there. Just take the sprinkler head off itself and then put your caps on. I always use my Teflon tape for the capping of all sort of irrigation pieces. What it does is it keeps things from getting from binding to each other, where they actually connect to each other. And it also can protect it and keep it from leaking as well. Okay, so when you cap those, I always make sure I use my Teflon tape. Whenever I'm doing it actually onto other pieces and things, I take my Teflon tape and I put it on there. I wrap it on the same way. That is actually going to be screwing into the unit itself. Okay, because if you put it on backwards, when you go to undo it, you'll be like, oh yeah, the whole thing came off. That's because it means that it was wrapped in the wrong direction. So make sure you turn off your lawn water, the water to the lawn and everything. And then you want to take those couple of sprinkler heads. You can cut them out. You can glue on new caps onto that, or you could actually just put caps on the sprinkler heads. That's what we were talking about there. Make sure you're using the right type of PVC glue. With that sort of stuff, you could just use like a regular clear glue. There's not necessary to use any sort of purple glue with it or primer glue. That's not necessary. Just use your clear or your blue. The red hot blue is usually a really good one. You want to make sure that you leave that one line open or 2 lines, depending on how big the area is. Make sure you come through and flush everything out. Okay, because you don't want to leave debris in the line itself. And then at this point, we can start actually changing it and putting a pressure regulator on there. There's different types of pressure regulators. There's this one here, which is really great. Say this was your your sprinkler head that was on top of here. This is buried into the ground down below. You can come in and you can actually put this spray head converter on here. This actually has a pressure regulator, pressure reducer is also what it's called. And this one here will bring it down to about 30 PSI. Okay, so depending upon how big your area is, you can go to 30 PSI or you can go to 25 PSI. There's also different styles that you can use, which is something like this. Okay, you just stick it on there. This one's really nice because it actually has a built-in filter. Okay, this is your pressure reducer inside here, if you can see that. The pressure reduction is in there. And then you have your filter, which you can clean out. I usually clean those out at least twice a year to make sure there's no debris or foreign objects in there. And then you basically take it, you can take this whole top off, and then you can screw that onto the actual pre-existing sprinkler to the nipple that are usually in the ground. These are the nipples, this part here. And and then you can screw this on. And this actually is got an area so you could screw it from the top itself, so you're not having to overdo it. And then from there, you can decide how you want to do it. You can, connect on your 1/2 inch with one direction on it, right? You could also use a different type of connector, depending on what type of connector you like. You could you could keep this end plugged, so you're not having to use it. Or you could come in and you can try doing a different type of connector like so. Whereas actually has something sticking out, and then that actually goes inside your tubing itself, into your 1/2 inch tubing. Okay. Those are 2 different types of ones that you can use that I like to use. You could also do a where would it go? That one. Oh, this one. You could also do something like this, or say this is your pre-existing stuff that's in the ground. This is your nipple, and then you could come in and you can actually change it up. So you're actually putting a different type. This is old style type of a pressure reducer regulator. And always make sure that your pressure reducer regulator is going in the correct direction. They'll say it on there. They'll show you that, oh, hey, it goes this direction. So that's the direction that you're going to be sending your water out. So make sure you're putting that on the correct way. Okay. And then we can just put our new little thing that converts it over to the drip. Okay. And then we come across like so. Or you could do something like this. If you actually, we'll go into detail if we actually have another class on this. And what I would like to talk about is how you can convert it over at the actual valve itself. But we don't have time for that today, sorry. There's also things that you could do like this, which if you converted it at the valve itself, you could just put this onto the actual sprinkler head where it was, and then you could come in this way here, and then you just put in your 1/2 inch tubing. Okay, there's other things out there that you can use. Where'd it go? Here it is. This is a multi-part manifold with a pressure reducer in it. I don't prefer to do these only because these things are made of a different style of plastic and they have a tendency to break, especially this style here. This does not have a pressure reduction in it. Because you don't have that pressure regulator in there, then you start putting these on. You could do pressure compensating emitters, but a lot of times they don't do well. They pop off, and then all of a sudden you have a leak out there and you have no idea that you have a leak. And these plastic pieces on here, they seem to break like all the time. They're really like a hard plastic, and they either crack or they break off. So I don't recommend those, but some people call these octopuses as well. And this is an older style here. And these can move around. That's one way of moving everything over. You can also do, if you have it done at the valve itself, you can have something like this, where you're only doing something small. This one, you can actually hook up your spaghetti to it, which this is spaghetti tubing or 1/4 inch tubing. There's different styles, and then you can just hook it in. Boom, and you're on your way. That'll fit better. So that is how you would do it. That's another one way you could do a quick connection on that. There's also a way of doing something like this. See, this is your original nipple. You're putting this guy on. You could use a piece of PVC. Make sure that you're using apples with apples and not apples with oranges. Okay. A lot of these will be, all your PVC is going to be a pipe thread. Okay. And then there's other type of stuff out there that is hose thread. So if you have that, there are actually things that you can actually use that will change it. And if you look at it closely, you'll see the threads on this are much bigger or wider apart. This is a hose thread style, while this one here is going to be a pipe thread fitting. Okay, so make sure you've got pipe with pipe if that's what you're using. And then you can also take one of these little guys. Make sure you're getting the right size to fit your actual, your 1/2-inch tubing. Okay, and then you need to come in, you need to cement this in, use your PVC cement glue, and then you can come in and just go like that. But remember, you know, if you're not using this thing to do a pressure regulator on it, you have to have a pressure regulator down at the valve itself. Okay. So that's the quick down and dirty on how to change it out. Okay. I heard like 30 PSI on a lot of things. If you have a small residential area, you could most certainly do like 25 PSI, that's fine.
Yeah, somebody.
Okay. So once you have your actual 1/2-inch strip and your spaghetti out to everything, you want to come through and you want to make sure that you've actually, number one, you would want to make sure you're using your staples, okay? And you want to make sure those are actually on and securing things down. You want to make sure that you come in and you do a flush of it. At the end of this, you would have what is called a figure 8. You could do a figure 8 on the end of it. And they also have ones that were actually, they have caps on the end of them, where it's pretty much that, something like this, which hooks onto the actual 1/2-inch. And then you just unscrew the cap, let the water flow out, put the cap back on, or the figure 8 back on, like so. And then let it flow out, let all the water flow out of that area. And then you put the figure 8 back on, and then you go along your merry way. I suggest doing this at least a couple times a year to make sure everything's clear within the actual 1/2-inch tubing. And then from there, you get to decide what type of emitters you want to use. Okay, so you can use flag emitters like this one here on the screen. You could use inline emitters, although I wouldn't recommend those unless you're doing them for like veggie beds. And you can use pressure regulating emitters if you like to do those. Okay. Then once you have your system in and everything, you do want to come in and you want to check it, listen for leaks. You'll hear them, it'll be like, and you want to come in and make sure that you address any of the leaks that are coming out. Sometimes if your drip is not connected on there correctly, sometimes you can have leaks coming out here where you've put your barb in to put your spaghetti on. So you want to make sure those are in there nice and tight. Okay. And then it's really important to come back and put some mulch on top of the actual drip, whether it's spaghetti or 1/2-inch, and then make sure that they are protected from the sun and the cold. And then you want to come in and then from there, I usually recommend once you've put in your plants, say you put in a 1-gallon plant, you want to make sure that it's getting fed at the root zone of that 1-gallon plant. And then later on, when it's established, 1 to 2 years later, you want to make sure that those emitters and everything are at that root zone and not still sitting at that 1-gallon size. You want to bring it out to where the roots are, just like the canopy of a tree. Same thing with this sort of stuff. You can say, oh, the canopy of my tree is only this big. when it first started out. So that's where you want to make sure your drip line is at the canopy of the tree itself. And then later on, when the tree grows bigger, you'll make sure that drip line's at the canopy of the tree itself. So this is, always think low and slow with your emitters, with your drip. And so this is why it's considered low and slow. You have to run them for a super long time and get that water down deep, and making sure when you do the watering, you don't want to just do a watering that's about like this much for the plant. You want to make sure it's spreading throughout the soil and going down deep into the soil, and it's also getting saturated and out far. So then that way you're going to have to run that system a lot less when you're running it appropriately. Okay. I usually come in and I usually have a checklist that I do for all my drip system itself. And I usually do that at least twice a year. I do it in the spring and I do it in the fall. And then that way you're making sure that you're not having leaks, your systems are flushed out, your filters are flushed out. Make sure the filters are flushed out on, say, like this guy. Or if you have one that's up at the valve itself, make sure you come through. You want to make sure all these filters are flushed out, cleaned. And you can just spray those out with a garden hose. Okay. But there's a lot of things that you want to do, make sure that you don't have that debris coming through there. And then if you look at your plants and they look like they're stretched out, the first thing I always do is I come in and I get a regular old screwdriver and I just put a screwdriver in the ground near the plant and I see where its root zone is. And I want to see what's going on with it. Is it overwatered or is it underwatered? Or are there other things that maybe your neighbor was spraying some sort of Roundup or something like that out there? Is that why it's looking punky? But it usually has to do with if a plant is looking stressed out and wilted, it's usually from overwatering. Okay, so you can also use like soil meters, put that in there and see how, what the meter is on that. If you've got a good soil moisture meter. Okay, but ideally you want to do it low and slow and less frequently. So we're going on to the good stuff, the plants. Okay, with the plants, what I've done is I've done different plants in here that are, some are ground cover, some are California natives, and some are for shade, and some are just for full sun. And then I have an actual code on all of these. So this would mean that it's a California native. This is low maintenance. It's a ground cover here. And this is extremely drought tolerant. So the extremely drought tolerant means it's going to be needing little to none on the water once it is established. The main thing that I do want to make sure that people do realize is when you plant new plants, they do need water. Just because it's considered an extremely drought tolerant plant, you still have to water it for a good year and a half, depending upon how much winter rain we get, and for it to get established, so that then you can give it that extreme, like, oh, I don't have to water it that often, I don't have to worry about it. Okay. So in all of these, this is like another acronym that I use, a little short one. This is evergreen. Okay. And then I do the USDA zones for this because, I do talks in different places. So I want to make sure that everybody's kind of like on the same zone. That way we don't have to worry about the sunset zones, depending upon where we're at. So this is a great plant here. This is a manzanita. It's a ground cover. They are pretty slow to grow, but it does attract the California quail, which is great. It's really well known for its really red bark, which I really love. It's got beautiful, shiny, dark green leaves on it. And the white flowers are one of the first flowers that you'll see in the late winter, early spring. Really pretty, fragrant. I really love the flowers. They're just beautiful. But it's California native, and some of them are ground covers, and then others are actually like tall trees. And these are usually found in our foothills, in the chaparral area of our foothills here in California. So it's a really great plant that I really recommend. This is the next plant is going to be the Australian fuchsia. This is, like we said, some of our plants are Mediterranean. So this is a Mediterranean style plant that comes from Australia. This one's going to want, in our areas, it's going to want part sun. If you're living by the coast, then you could most certainly do it as a full sun plant, because it's going to be getting that coastal breeze. It's going to be a little cooler there. But these guys are very long lived. They can live up to like 50 years. They're slower to grow, but they live a really, really long time. And they have that gray green foliage, which I really like. And then it has like a pink flower or a reddish flower, depending upon its condition and where it's at. And in order to get this guy, I don't recommend, it's low maintenance, so I don't recommend actually coming through and hedging it. What the best way to really come through is to sort of do a tip prune on it, just deadhead the little parts off, and then it just keeps on blooming and blooming and blooming and blooming. If you come in with a hedger, it's going to have no flowers on it for several months, and then it'll rebloom for you. Okay. This is the epilobium. It used to be called the Zossionaria. That's been renamed. This is our California fuchsia here. It comes in a variety of colors, shapes, sizes. But this particular species is a canum. This one can get anywhere from 3 to 5 feet to 3 to 5 feet on height and width. Okay, it has the beautiful trumpet flowers that the hummingbirds like. And then it's got that, it can have really gray foliage, or it can have more of a greener foliage. And some of them are much shorter, and a lot of them they just make a really great ground cover. So this one can do sun to part sun. It doesn't, and as you can see, it's going to want occasional water. Okay, like this one up here it's going to be more often, but it's not going to be like you're doing regular perennials. It's going to want less water than a regular perennial. Okay, good for part sun in this one. The epilobium is going to be full sun to part sun. Okay. And then I wanted to throw in another type of plant here, the flax lily. That's a great plant. This is Dianella. This one it does part sun to shade. If you're doing it in full shade, it's not going to bloom as much for you, but it does have a really pretty light blue flower that first comes out. And then it comes back, it's followed by the blue, kind of purplish colored, metallic colored berries. So I leave that. I don't even trim that back or do anything with it, and probably towards the end of the year, until these berries start to fade in color. And then I'll actually come back and I'll cut the stem off where the flowers and the berries were on. So you've got beauty on that thing for a really long time. It's grass-like foliage, so it has a strap-like leaves. And then it's extremely drought tolerant. So doing great there. It's also in our zones, which is 9 through 11, which is great. And it doesn't get too big. Okay. This is our next set of plants. This is the echinacea, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. Echinacea is been around for a long time. Has those beautiful daisy-shaped flowers, great for cut flowers. Brings in a lot of butterflies, because the butterflies can just sit in the center here and just munch away on it and eat as much as they want. There's lots of different echinaceas out here now, but I do prefer using the older styles, because it actually attracts a lot more animals and wildlife than some of the newer varieties that are out there. This one's deer resistant. Okay. And that's considered a low drought tolerant. I actually have these planted in my backyard in one area, and I honestly I have several areas where I just push it. I wait and I wait and I wait. And I think the last time I just recently watered it, and it had been 5 weeks before I actually watered, because I did a long, deep watering on them. And then I wait and I take a look and I test my ground. I go, okay, yeah, now I need to water again. So these, even though they're considered low drought tolerant, I will push stuff to see how far it can go. Okay. Sticky monkey flower. This is the mimulus. They come in a lot of different colors. They come in oranges. They come in 2-colored sort of plants. They come in yellow. They have a whole bunch of different colors. But I do like the fact that their leaves are a nice linear shaped sort of foliage. It's dark green, it's shiny. The hummingbirds love these because they have a tubular flower towards the end of it. And they can drink lots of nectar out of there. There are different ones that are California natives. There's also other hybrids that are not California natives, but it should stick around all winter. So it's evergreen and it's deer resistant. Another plant that I really like is, let me go back, is the orchid rose. This is your cistus. Not considered a California native, but it's super, super, you don't want to water it a whole lot. This can be anywhere from occasional to extremely drought tolerant, but they have really, really pretty purple. They have like these cup-shaped flowers that have little magenta spots on the petals themselves, and then the centers are really pretty yellow. Really stands out. And they bloom for a really, really long time. So that's a really good plant to do. And then another one to do as far as a hedge, this one can do, I would do part sun on this one to shade on this one, but it puts out fragrant white flowers. But you can most certainly do, the height is 4 feet tall, and then it goes a long ways as far as filling in a big area for you. But it's going to be evergreen, it's deer resistant, low maintenance, and low water. And then it has the variety of different colored leaves on it throughout the year. It'll have pinks and creams and yellows and whites and sometimes oranges in there. Okay. And then the California penstemon. This is a great plant. This is Blue Springs. There's other ones out there that are a little bit similar in the name of the varietal name. But this is my favorite variety. And this one does not like a whole lot of water. It's going to want, once you get it established, you don't want to do a whole lot of water. It says little to zero. So this is extremely drought tolerant. And that one, if you overwater it, then you'll see it getting all brown and nasty in the middle of it. Okay, but it does have a really great color because it has the metallic blue and pink. Looks awesome with our California poppies with the orange in there, just to have this vibrant color going on in the spring. Another one that's really great, that's a California native here, is our coffee berry. This plant, I think, needs to be used a lot more because it's a California native, and it makes a great shrub. And you just plant it, get it going, get it out there, and you don't have to water it a whole lot. But it brings in a lot of birds that love the actual red berries that come off of it later on in the year after it flowers. And then the hummingbird sage is a really, really nice flowering ground cover. It gets about 2 feet tall, but it'll go 5 feet with just one plant. You need to get it established really well and then give it an occasional water on it. If it's not getting enough water, then it is going to get kind of brown and nasty. Or if you're overwatering it, then it also starts looking brown and nasty. This one does self-propagate if you're watering it a lot. So, but it does have really great fragrance on the foliage and the flowers itself. It's California native, it's low maintenance. You'll have to like go out there and mow it or anything. It's pretty much like put it in and let it do its thing. And then the last one is going to be our May night. That is a salvia May night. It's actually considered a winner as far as the plant goes. I think it won the 2000, it was a while back, but it was a winning plant for the year, and does that beautiful purple blue aromatic purple blue flowers, upright stems. Just you can just cut it back and it's going to keep blooming and blooming and blooming and blooming for you. They do go deciduous during the winter, and it's really loved by different bees and lots of other wildlife that's running around out there. Okay, so I may go through the next screens pretty fast. This is a good place to get commercial grade irrigation. And you can, there's a Horizon in Vacaville. There's a Horizon over here in Napa. There's a wide irrigation in Napa, and there's also in Fairfield, you have the Sassoon Valley fruit growers, which do a lot of irrigation. There's local trees that are out in the Solano area. Morning Sun does strictly 4-inch stuff. They do a lot of great plants out there. I really, really like them. There's also this nursery. I did try contacting them earlier this week and was not able to get through with them, but they say just the number, and then you can come out and you can visit the nursery itself. Lemuria is a great nursery out in Dixon if you're out that way. And then as far as landscape supplies and stuff like, if you're looking for good mulch, if you're looking for, walk-on bark or rocks or gravel or any of that stuff, I recommend Sunray. That's a really good place to go to get your supplies itself. Okay. Oops, I had a double on that one. Oh, going the wrong way. Sorry. So to summarize everything here, you want to make sure that you're not fertilizing in the summer. If you're going to be fertilizing, I actually recommend doing compost, because a lot of your fertilizers out there do have, they'll have salt in them, which makes you thirstier, which makes, you're going to have to water them more. I always recommend using a rain check or click device on your controller, so that if we do, and we've been getting them, it's pretty regular, like, and inevitably we always get like a rain sometime, and depending upon where you're at, but we usually get a rain in June. So make sure if we're going to be getting a lot of rain, make sure that the click device shuts off the irrigation system itself. Okay. And if you can, when you're creating your new garden, create berms and stuff like that, because that actually adds texture and, something that looks more natural. A lot of these ground covers that you're putting out there are good for preventing erosion. You want to make sure you water early in the morning, not at night. And then using compost instead of weed and feed. And then remember, a lot of those plants out there, they don't require a whole lot of maintenance. We have some of the ones like the echinacea, which are great because you're doing them for cut flowers and other things like that. But a lot of your plants out there are going to be a lot less maintenance than the actual lawn itself. So when you're out there, you're thinking about, hey, should I lose my lawn or not? I would say, yeah, because there's actually cash in that lawn. Once you take the time and the effort to go out and change your lawn into a low water landscape, then you're actually saving water in the long run. So there's cash in that lawn for you. Okay. And this is a before picture with the water thirsty lawn. And then this is later on when you have, this is that penstemon, the California penstemon with the California poppies in the background itself. Okay. And that's our presentation for today. I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes. Anyone have any questions? I'll run over to the questions page. Maureen, out of curiosity, just because, at our agency, we get to talk to so many people who are either questions about their lawn, they want to take out their lawn, or they just want to work on irrigation. What's the most common mistake you see homeowners do in regards to their irrigation and their landscaping? Are they overwatering, underwatering, put the wrong plants in, or all those things?
I would say number one is overwatering, especially with lawns. I was recently at one place and he's watering like 5 times a week. I'm like, oh, so yeah, even with your lawn, you want to water and go in and water it for the specific amount of time that you need for that type of sprinkler head that you have for the lawn, because each type of sprinkler head is going to want a different amount of time that it is actually run without having runoff. And then you want to come back in like 45 minutes to an hour and then run that system again. So if you've got the new rotary style, like sprinkler heads on them, they're water efficient. They have a throw like this that looks like this rather than the regular spray. But those only run for like 5 to 7 minutes, and then you come back. Oh, I'm sorry. It's more than that. And then you want to come back in like an hour and run that system again so that you're driving that water down deep, 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 and then the roots go chasing that water. So I would have to say overwatering is probably the number one thing that people do.
Okay, we hear that a lot, and we see people share their experience with their water bills. So sometimes we hear about that.
Yeah.
Then my other question, you had mentioned with drip irrigation, the different times. So would there necessarily be different water longer and slower for trees, especially in the summer? Do you have any recommendations for taking care of landscapes in the summer, or adjusting times for our hot weather that's coming up? Like this week, I think we're in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always recommend watering before the plants get stressed out. So give them that long, deep drink, especially if you're having trees out there. You want to do you could even do a garden hose to it and then just make sure it's on really, really low. Just like you're simulating like a drip irrigation, and then just water nice and deep and then get them hydrated. You also want to hydrate plants before any sort of freeze that we have, because that's another thing that I see pretty frequently is people don't water their plants right before freeze. So yeah, keep the roots hydrated and they'll be a lot happier.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And just to throw it back to the chat, or if anyone wants to unmute and ask a question to Maureen while we have her, especially if it's related to, your yard or summer gardening. And if you saw in the chat as well, I posted some of the locations that Maureen had graciously shared of our local supply stores and nurseries.
Yeah, I think that people really enjoy getting some professional advice as well at some of those places.
Yes,
But remember, there is I don't know if you posted it, but the Solano County agency actually has, I believe there's still some money in the funds.
we
Or funds
do.
in the actual system.
Yes, let me hop
Yeah.
over to that. Yes, so thank you so much, Maureen, for reminding me. So our county, our water agency, we do offer rebates for anyone that's interested in either taking out their lawn, replacing it with any of the plants you saw today, or plants like that, and drip irrigation is one of our preferred methods. Then you can get up to $1.50 per square foot. And depending what city you live in, you might even get a little extra more from the city. And even just if you are interested, like Maureen had mentioned, maybe just doing, a little summer tune-up to make sure all your irrigation is running appropriate, no leaks, and, maybe you're overwatering. One quick thing to help is we do offer rebates also for your weather-based irrigation controllers. They hook up to Wi-Fi to a local weather station in the area. And so they'll kind of help you be a little bit more efficient in that way. Also some other water saving technology. And we'll also have some more rebates on our website to be coming soon. Or if you just scan our QR code or email us, we do have some free things like I'm blanking, moisture meters, hose timers, things like that to help you kind of just be a little bit more efficient, help your plants grow. And then we just put on a couple resource pages here. If you're interested in seeing some of the plants that Maureen was talking about, CalScape is a great resource. You can literally type in anything you like. It'll give you, if you go through your zip code, it'll give you lots of plants that live in your area that are suited. UC Davis Arboretum, if you want to go visit a local garden and see how it looks, all different types of plants they have there. And the master gardeners are a wealth of resources, whether you're in Solano, Yolo, or Santa Clara. Oh, let's see. What is the Solano County website? Yes, sorry, let me go back to that. It's all the way down here, scwa2.com. I'll throw it in the chat as well. Or if you scan that QR code there, it'll take you directly to our website. There you are. And then I will also post this and email this to everyone later today, most likely. Awesome. Let me see if is there any other questions in the chat. I know that a lot of you, you're finishing up your lunch break, so I just wanted to thank you so much for participating today, and we hope you learned a lot. And yes, in the next day or two, I will update and share the video with everyone as well as the survey just to get a little bit of feedback. Thank you so much. And Maureen, I don't know if you want to share any additional information, but wanted to say
Um,
thank you, everyone.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. And I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation. And yeah, let's go save some water.
Yes, yes, please. Summer's ahead. So if you need any assistance, please don't hesitate to give our agency a call or your local master gardener, and they actually have a hotline. So if you have a plant related question or anything, they're a great resource. All right, folks. Well, then I'll go ahead and close out the meeting. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. And we'll see you at the next webinar.
Thanks,
Bye.
Elise.
Thank you. Thank you.